Copied and paste, this work is mine. I created this story for speech and debate class, also any feedback is helpful. First story. Criminal? That's exactly what they think of me. Around 3 months ago, I was accused of second-degree murder. I now stand in court trying to be acquitted, my lawyer next to me. I saw the murder, but I didn't do anything myself, but nobody believes me. Every day I see people looking at me disgusted. I hear people whispering. Delinquent? Murderer, put him in jail. The main reason people think it was me was that they found my DNA in the man's body, but what really happened was that I was walking down the parking lot and around the corner where there were no security cameras. After that I heard a scream. I peeked over the pillar and checked, and there were 2 men, one holding a knife, a man on the floor bleeding, and the other one checking his wallet and taking everything valuable. After I realized what was happening, I decided to wait until they left, then I ran to the man. I held him and tried to stop the bleed. I checked his pockets for anything I could use, but there was nothing. I later realized that he couldn't be saved as he was stabbed 4 times, once in the chest where it either hit him in the lungs or the heart, which I couldn't tell over the bleeding. Once I realized he was dead, I ran, not wanting to get caught as people would think I was the killer, which had happened either way. On my way home I saw many crows and black cats, which meant bad luck, and I knew this. I was terrified as I replayed what had happened over and over. Fast forward 1 year later, my jurisdiction was life in prison. After 13 years my lawyer had proved my innocence, and I was back. That same day I was famous, as many people from the news were asking me what happened. Days later, I saw a facsimile of what I had said. My story had died over the years, but I know that whatever knave and malice man made me suffer will be caught. Second story. What will we do now? Said the adjutant, troubled and excited. Bury him, said Timothy Lean. The 2 officers looked down close to their toes where lay the body of their comrade. The face was chalk blue, gleaming eyes stared at the sky. Over the 2 upright figures was a windy sound of bullets, and on the top of the hill Lean's prostrate company of Spitzbergen infantry was firing measured volleys. Don't you think it would be better? Began the adjutant. We might leave him until tomorrow. No, said Lean. I can't hold that post an hour longer. I've got to fall back, and we've got to bury old Bill. Of course, said the adjutant at once. Your men got entrenching tools? Lean shouted back to his little line, and 2 men came slowly, one with a pick, one with a shovel. They started in the direction of the Rosina sharpshooters. Bullets cracked near their ears. Dig here, said Lean gruffly. The men, thus caused to lower their glances to the turf, became hurried and frightened merely because they could not look to see whence the bullets came. The dull beat of the pick striking the earth sounded amid the swift snap of close bullets. Presently the other private began to shovel. I suppose, said the adjutant, slowly, we'd better search his clothes for things. Lean nodded. Together in curious abstraction, they looked at the body. Then Lean stirred his shoulders suddenly, arousing himself. Yes, he said, we'd better see what he's got. He dropped to his knees, and his hands approached the body of the dead officer. But his hands wavered over the buttons of the tunic. The first button was brick red with drying blood, and he did not seem to dare touch it. Go on, said the adjutant, hoarsely. Lean stretched his wooden hand, and his fingers fumbled the blood-stained buttons. At last, he rose with a ghastly face. He had gathered a watch, a whistle, a pipe, a tobacco pouch, a handkerchief, a little case of cards and papers. He looked at the adjutant. There was a silence. The adjutant was feeling that he had been a coward to make Lean do all the grisly business. Well, said Lean, that's all, I think. You have his sword and revolver? Well, we better fall back, I said, and we started running towards safety. Third story. We are all familiar with Mr. Nobody. When a drink spills on the carpet or a vase smashed in the floor, our parents ask us who did it, and they tell them we don't know, we weren't there, it wasn't us. I don't say anything because my siblings, and I didn't do anything, and that was the truth, it was Mr. Nobody. My siblings are too focused about the spanking or the confiscated PlayStation that they don't pay attention to Mr. Nobody, but I was smart, I tried to get even, I tried to catch him, I set up cameras all over the house. I stayed up late trying to catch him, I set traps, I kept telling my mom I was inches away from catching him, but then Mr. Nobody knew that I was onto him, so He came into my room at night around 12 a.m. and threatened me. I couldn't see him, as he was invisible like a ghost. He then left. I could not sleep, as I stood there lifelessly lying on the bed. The next day I stopped and took everything down. At 11 o'clock a.m. I went outside with my mother and decided to play with her and my siblings and my dog, cat, and parrot. We stayed there for 2 hours, and then I went inside as mother said she would be right there. When I entered there was a plate smashed on the floor. It was Mr. Nobody, I thought. My mother came in and saw the plate. I begged her not to punish me. She said to me, "I won't." She turned pale when my brother and sister came in and my mother became so white she almost looked like a ghost. She whispered, "How could this happen? All my children were outside with me." I heard this as I was the closest to my mother. I also realized that the dog and cat were acting anxious and was barking at the house, and the parrot was screeching loudly too, and that was 15 minutes before we went inside. I swept the rest of the debris and went to sleep. At around 12 a.m. I heard screaming from my brother's room. Everyone barged in there to find all of his belongings smashed and broken to pieces on the floor. Then my mother said, "Pack your things, we are leaving." We then left the house and rented a hotel as mother was buying a new house. We put our old house to sale and hoped that whoever bought it did not get hurt by Mr. Nobody. After that, life was normal again and nothing else happened. I still remember it though, but to this day nobody has ever seen Mr. Nobody.